So going straight into this, we're going to look at the character and look at his attributes. Now with this guy, I have put 36 points into Magicka and 28 points into health. The health is mainly for when I do veteran dungeons. Yes, I'm a healer, but it's also good to be able to do a little bit of sustain and keep yourself alive, to get the heals out for the players. Like I say, most of these characters are built for PvE. You can take them into PvP if you wish. They are pretty decent, but they are mainly based for veteran dungeons and trials. So like I say, 36 points in Magicka and 28 points in health. It has 29% spell critical. Obviously it's not meant to be doing DPS, this character. Weapon critical is only 19%. The resistances are quite low as well, but again, this is a healer, he's not meant to do damage. So looking into the skills, now the main bar that I use is my healing bar. I do use dual resto staffs. Obviously as a healer, resto staffs are pretty much needed. So going with the first skill, we have Breath of Life. This is my main heal. I'd advise you guys to put this on both bars, so you don't have to keep switching between if you need to get an emergency heal off. But I would also advise not to use this on players or allies that are below sort of 80% health. I'll wait until they're down to about 30 or 40, because this is a really good heal and will take them back to full within no time. So use it as your emergency heal, because it does cost quite a lot of Magicka as well, but use it as your main heal when allies are very low. Going into Repentance, this basically gathers all the souls of people around you, and it heals you and your allies for 3,000 health and restores stamina for each corpse in the area. So it's a good skill to have to get health back and stamina back for you and your allies. Ritual of Retribution. This is a big circle you put down around you, and any enemies inside the circle take damage, and all the time they're taking damage you are gaining health, and that's for you and your allies again as well. So it's an area of effect and does group heals as well as self heals. Going into Healing Springs, this is a resto staff ability, and this summons restoring spirits for you and your allies. It gives you about 4,000 health over a 3-second period. Very good for a quick small heal. And then going into the last one, we have Combat Prayer, and this is basically a long line of sort of a healing carpet, if you like, in front of you, and anybody that's in front of it gets massive heals off it. Going into the ultimate, we have Life Giver, which is the ultimate morph of Panacea, I think it's called. It's the Resto Staff ultimate, and it's a very, very good ultimate. As the Life Giver one, it gives you 3 additional Resto Staff abilities as the ultimate skills. So when you activate it, you automatically cast Regeneration, Blessing of Protection, and Steadfast Ward. So you gain 2 heals, an additional heal, and a damage shield for you and your allies off of this heal. So it's a very, very good morph to have for Panacea. Going into the passives, obviously we have all the passives for Restoring Light, Dawn's Wraith, Adric's Spear. Again, this is going to the second bar in a sec, so I'll explain that. I have all the passives for Destruction Staff and Resto Staff. I used to use a Destruction Staff for this character, but I took it off. So I just use Restoration Staff now. I also use Light Armor with this character, so have all the passives for Light Armor. You don't need to have the annulment skill, just have all the passives. And obviously Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Thieves Guild, all the rest of it, you can have the passives for that as well, because it will help you out. As a Breton as well, he's a Breton Templar, if you haven't guessed already. So I have all the Breton passives as well. So make sure, once you've got all your skills sorted, make sure to get all the passives as well. Going into the champion points is the most important part, I feel, of any build. Going into the Thief, which is the tower, we have 11 points in Warlord. This is because reducing the cost of Break Free. It's a very good one to have, but I've only got the 11 points in this because it gets the Ensnare passive, which is a very good thing to have. Going into the Lover, we have Tenacity. Now, I have this on 100% just out of personal preference, because for every heavy attack you do with your Resto Staff, Destruction Staff, whatever, it gets you Magicka back incredibly quick. Again, Arcanist, I only have it in this mainly because I'm only using a Magicka build, so it's a staff. If I was using a stamina build, I'd put it in Mooncalf. But I'm using staffs, so I've got Arcanist for the Magicka recovery. I have 50 points in healthy, mainly because my health recovery. As a healer, you sort of need to keep yourself on point all the time. You can, if you want, put all those 50 points into Warlord, but out of preference, I put it in healthy. Going into Thief, I only have 9 points in Befoul, and this increases the effectiveness of your healing reduction abilities. Again, I've only got 9 points. You can have 10 to get Fortune Seeker, which you probably could do, to be fair. I could probably take one out of Warlord and whack it into this one just to get the Fortune Seeker passive, but it's not massively needed. Going into the Mage, we have the Apprentice. Now, I have 100 points in Blessed. Now, that is how effective your heals are going to be to all of your players or allies inside dungeons, trials, etc. So the more points in this, the more effective your heals are going to be. So I've, out of preference, put 100 points. You can, I think it caps at about 75, but I wanted the 100 and just for the 15% extra bonus for the healing. So again, personal preference, but you can mix these about. There's no right or wrong way, but just make sure you have points in these ones. Elfborn increases your critical damage and healing with Magicka abilities, and again, as a Magicka build that does healing and a damage over time heal, Elfborn is a very good one to have. Elemental Expert is for Flame, Frost and Shock magic damage. As a healer, I do have a second bar, which again I'll go into in a second, that has a bit of DPS, so having 50 points into Elemental Expert is good. And again, for Spell Erosion, I'm using a Magicka build, and again, I do have DPS and area of effects, so Spell Erosion for that is a very good thing to have. Again, you can probably put about 45 in both of these and put the extra 10 points into Elfborn. But again, out of personal preference, I've got 50 in both. Going into Staff Expert, now you can have lots and lots and lots and lots of points in this, because again, as a staff user, you're going to be doing a lot of heavy attacks and light attacks with your staff, so the more points in that you can have, the better. I'd recommend not going above about 65 because it caps. But again, if you wanted to take the points out of Spell Erosion, you could take these down again. If you wanted to have a lot of points in Staff Expert, you could probably put these down to about 25 each, and then put the 50 points into this, and you'll be sort of well away pretty much. Going into Thermitage, sorry, the Ritual, I have Thermitage. This is the effectiveness and damage damage over time effects. Now, I have quite a few damage over time effects, so again, the more points in this, the better. Yeah, just going to do lots of crazy damage with the area effect abilities with this filled up. Going into the Warrior, we have Steed. I have 47 points in Ironclad, 45 points in Spell Shield, and 46 points in Resistance. They pretty much speak for themselves. Going into the Lady, we have a Light Armor Focus. You don't really need to put many points into Light Armor Focus after the last update. You probably could put those 32 points into either Elemental Defend or Thick Skinned, or upgrade Ironclad to about 65 points. That'd be the best bet to do. We have Hardy, which reduces the damage taken with physical poison and disease damage. Again, good for trials and veteran dungeons. Elemental Defender basically protects you from any flame, frost or shock or magic damage sent at you from enemies. And then going into the last one, we have Expert Defender, which is reduce your damage from taken from player, light and heavy attacks. Now, this is only mainly for PvP, so if you go into PvP areas or you're a PvP player, have as many points in this as you can. Again, I think it caps at about 65. And again, it reduces the amount of damage you take from player, light and heavy attacks. And that's pretty much the champion points. So again, if you want to go back and rewind, do feel free to go back through these champion points and see where I've put them, or sort of play with them and see what works best for your character and what your build is, because obviously everybody's build isn't going to be the same as this. Going back into the skills for the second bar. Now again, on the first slot we do have Breath of Life. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, do have this on both bars because it saves you trying to flick between the bars when you're trying to get an emergency heal off, so have it on both as your emergency heal for both bars. Going into the DPS, we have Channeled Focus. This creates a rune on the floor that you stand inside, and all the time you're stood inside it and your allies are stood inside it, you regain your Magicka, and you also take less damage. So it's a very good thing to have. Puncturing Sweeps, I have that mainly for a heal because it's damage over time, and obviously does quite a lot of damage, but it also gives me heals back. So I've got the Puncturing Sweep morph for it. Going into Blazing Spear, which I think is the morph for... Oh, I've forgotten what the skill's called, but you know what I'm on about. You basically throw it into the air, and anybody that's stood inside it, preferably your tank, can get the stamina and Magicka back off it from the passive they can grab. And also we have Radiant Glory, which is the big golden beam that you fire at people when they're down on low health. And then going into the ultimate, we have Nova, and that is the big ball of sun that you call into the floor, and people can get the Radiant Oppression, Supernova morph off it when it's called in. Again, you can, if you wanted to, have different heals put onto this bar, because like I said, I use Resto Staffs on both bars, so you could put more heals into this and just be a pure healer, but if you want to get a little bit of damage off, it's good to have 4 attacks that either do damage over time for the Thermitage and the champion points, or just direct damage to the enemy in front of you. So it's always good to have a sort of a mix, but this character is built for healing and he can heal for days. And then lastly, we go into the gear. Now, like I say, I have 2 resto staffs. Both of the resto staffs are Dr's Rest, and the 5-piece bonus for that. Basically, when you do a heavy, charged heavy attack, you create a circle of consecrated ground that heals you and your allies within 5 meters of you for 12,000 health over 10 seconds. So basically, when I hit an enemy with a heavy attack, every 10 seconds I can get a gold circle around that enemy's body, and any ally, including yourself, that stood inside that gold will get health back. Incredible amounts of health back. And that's on top of your skills that you can also call in to get more health in as well. So you are going to be healing through the tits on this build pretty much. Going into monster sets, I use Chokethorn on this character. When you use a heal ability, you have 15% chance to summon a Strangler Sapling that heals you or your ally for 23,000 health over 4 seconds and can occur once every 10 seconds. So it does only heal 1 ally at a time, but it can happen every 10 seconds, and as a healer you're going to be doing a lot of heals, so a lot of Chokethorns are going to procs. Like I say, we have Dr's Rest, so 5 pieces of Dr's Rest, and then I also use the Chokethorn, sorry, no I don't. I use the Healer's Habit set, and the Healer's Habit, for 5 items you gain Minor Mending at all times, increasing your healing done by 8%. The first 4 items don't really mean much. Obviously it's increased Magicka and Magicka Recovery and spell damage, but it's mainly for the 5th piece, which is the gain Minor Mending at all times, increasing your healing done by 8%. It's sort of similar to the Sanctuary set, so you probably could run, if you took off the Drug set and ran Sanctuary and Healer's Habit, you would be pretty nuts at healing, especially in PvP as well. Veteran Dungeons, this guy is nails, and Trials, he's been a very good healer in Trials as well.